Hi, I'm Rachel. My project is on Lunval, at least the first half of Lunval. Um, in this lay, Lunval is a knight in King Arthur's Round Table of Knights, and he is actually the son of another king, but he's come to serve Arthur. And at the very beginning of this story, he was forgotten, I should say. He was forgotten when the king was giving out lands and women and gifts to all of his knights. He was forgotten, and he had already spent all of his money. So he was broke, and while he was contemplating on how he was going to survive and fix this situation, a woman came out of nowhere, and um, I'm skipping a bit because it was actually her attendants who found him and said that our lady wants to see you. So she basically pledged her love to him, and if he doesn't tell anybody, he promises not to tell anybody about their love and their relationship, then he would be granted all the money he could ever want and herself, right? She would dedicate herself to him. And she comes and goes as she pleases, well, as he pleases. So um, it it alludes to her having these mystical powers, right? She can come and go as she wants. Nobody will can see her except for him. He miraculously just keeps having money. And so she's like this fairy or this sorceress or somebody. Um, but the promise is that he doesn't tell anybody about them. Um, and there comes a point where the queen, Guinevere, comes to him and basically like says, "Hey, I love you and have a relationship with me." And when he says no, she gets really, really mad and slanders him and says all sorts of bad things about him and is like, "You probably aren't even capable of love." And that's when he let slip out of his anger, and to prove that he does love, he tells about this relationship that he has with this woman. And um she gets really, really mad. um and and he also basically insults her, saying that this woman is so much prettier than she is anyway. um and he's better off with this other woman, which she gets really, really mad. And that's my half of the reading. Um, but some themes that I noticed within this story and other lays around is this theme of a clandestine love, right? This relationship that nobody else can know about. I think it's very interesting how it's not just in other like lays or stories that are made up, but even um, other types of accounts, right? With Eloise and Abelard, they had to have this clandestine relationship. A lot of other relationships are very hush hush. And I thought that was very interesting how there's a lot of those themes around, and for different reasons. You don't really get a whole lot of reasons in this story about why it needs to be secretive. But I think that's an interesting theme. Um, I also thought that it was another theme was this love at first sight. And I haven't read all the lays yet, so if anybody else out there has read them and can attest to, it's a theme, this theme of, this lady came out of nowhere and all of a sudden they're in love. And so one question I had about that is, is this real love? Or is this just something very exciting and spur of the moment? Um, and and the themes that go around that as well. Um, see, one of the themes I thought was interesting was of broken promises. One of the readings said that lays have kind of this pattern of this romance and then promises that are made and eventually broken. I have seen with other poems that promises haven't been kept. Those are usually poems based off of like real stories that I've seen. So, yeah, I'll be posting some other questions that I had about the reading, specifically a lot of the two female characters that are in this story, this fairy queen and the Queen Guinevere, and how they are different, how they compare and contrast, I think is very interesting. These two very strong female characters who do have a lot of freedom as far as choice. You know, they're women of power, and that they can make choices for themselves and for other people, and they can both get Lenval into a lot of trouble. This poor knight is wrapped up in all of this. And I thought it was also interesting to kind of compare these two women in an authoritative situation compared to just women in general that were mentioned at the beginning of the story, where the king, when he wasn't just giving out lands to his knights, he was giving women as well. And I thought that was interesting as far as how is he giving them? Are they just living on the land? So whatever people go along with the land that he's given these knights, they just inherit and they're in charge of, or is he literally like giving them women as if they were property? And how that's different. That idea is different from these other two women that play a big role in this story, and how they are women of authority and power. So, just some thoughts that I had there. My partner will also be talking about the second half of the story. So if you want to hear how that ends, if you listen to her story, I'm sure she will have more insight about it.